Hi everyone. Happy holidays. Thanks for being here. So let's see if other people show up. For now, let's just have a conversation with each other. We're giving these away in a way that these are available. These are being made public. So we're channeling everyone's going to be listening to this for all time. For however long these are going to be in this space, anyhow. So in that sense, it's time to ask certain questions. I want to acknowledge the fact that this is the last Zoom call for 2022. And there's been a lot of Zoom calls for 2022. As a lot of you well know, the typhoon happened in Palawan around this time last year. So it was actually quite a big year. For me, a lot of the year was spent in Europe, actually meeting some of you who are in this call, Europe and Turkey. Turkey, which is partly in Europe and in Asia. Yeah, so a lot happened this year to you, to me, to us, to Inner Dance, to the energy, whatever you want to call it. So welcome. Yeah, more people joining in. So, yeah, I feel like going deep a little bit today. Yesterday we had a really deep call, and I'm kind of feeling spent after holding so much space. I haven't really slept the last 2 days. So I'm asking Ahilan to help hold some of today. I feel like he has something to share. So I spent some time with him maybe an hour ago to help him prepare. I want to ask the question, where is it coming from? So the question, what is it? So some people might call it the inner dance or the movement, this mysterious energy that comes from somewhere that seems to be like a body or a person or an earth or the universe. I want to meditate upon this. I want to ask this with you. People send me or us here emails asking for support mechanisms. It's like some of the emails are like, okay, I heard that you are partly the origin of this energy. Like my teacher said that you're his teacher, or and this and that. I need to dispel some of that in a way that even I had access to a source greater than beyond imagining. So, yeah, now we need to perform this ritual where we have to ask, where is all of this coming from? So that might bring you back to your own experiences. Like, what did you go through when this happened to you? Not just the first time, but those deep moments where this was happening. So this is supposed to be a training where people are supposed to learn about how a space is held. We don't train people. What we do is we describe where this is coming from in the hope that with the understanding that comes to you, then you would know what to do. So we learn to speak from the source and the origins. So one of the questions we can ask is, where is the inner dance coming from? and the illusion is it's coming from this man from the Philippines. Um, for the first years of inner dance, I held on to my own story, and I think I trusted that because there was something in my story that was holding a lot of symbols that were relevant enough to have held inner dance for a certain duration, that had to do with listening to the earth, coming back to the earth, becoming one with the earth. Like, so for example, when the energy first came to me, one of the first words that came were, like when I first experienced this movement, this strong movement, the words came, it began in Africa. So that's a mystery. I'm still unraveling or unpacking what that means. But that helps to understand that there's something very impersonal about this. Um, so, a common experience of the inner dance has to do with origins. So, when I talk about, okay, what's the origins of inner dance? There's something about the story of inner dance that's also about the story of all stories. I'm We're not here to invalidate your story. Somehow your story is really important here. And somehow your story intertwines with the story of all the other stories. It could be the story of the universe, it could be the story of the earth, it could be the story of your mother, it could be the story of how stories are even told. You can't get more meta than that. The stories of the species. Where did it all begin? What's the origin of language, for example? What's the origins of music? What is the origin of the mind? What is the origin of the human? Somehow within inner dance, all of these start to become just one story. So, like we talked about causality in a previous Zoom call, where when you're born and then when you grow up, how you initiate yourself in the world is through causality. Like something must have caused this world, this reality, this earth. And we created mythology, we created religion, we created science in order to have some kind of explanation to arrive at now, at today. So we spoke about how the small child asks the question, why? Why does the sun come up? Why am I here? Why do I have that mom and that dad? And the more you come up with the reasons, the reasoning, you start to situate yourself in some kind of story which surrounds what's called the ego. Um, so we then extend causality more and more and more, so that the bigger the causal space, then you can hold like a greater systematicity, a greater space. And inner dance creates that kind of space. So, okay, just keep coming back to the question, like, where is the inner dance coming from? If I isolated some of the conditions that allowed for inner dance in the beginning, the story was talking a lot about going back to the earth, going back to nature, living in the most natural way. And I think a lot of people trusted that for a while. It's like, okay, what would it mean to become more ecological, respectful beings that lived closer to the earth? This obviously holds relevance. But in a way, I think we needed to go deeper. So there was a need to step away from some of those origin stories of inner dance. And so right now, I'm really careful not to go instantly, automatically there into my own stories. I'm really careful not to go there. I'm more careful. I'm taking more care to go into something much bigger, as to where inner dance might be coming from. So I'm just gonna keep asking that right now. Like, where is this coming from? Where are you coming from? Where am I coming from? Where is this universe coming from? So throughout the last months, we've been okay to share a lot of insights with you in relation to techniques, tools, how to hold a space, especially in relation to music and vibration, because it's quite safe to say that we are being caused by vibration. If there still would be some kind of determinism, um, vibration would be it. So a lot of the tools that we do share is in regards to who are you as a vibration. Um, Today I'd like to go deeper into what is maybe understandable, um, to you as a person, because you are experiencing the energy, right? Like, when you go there, when you lay down, when you close your eyes, there's an experience, and in that experience, something is changing. So, um, still maybe to borrow a little bit from my own story, so that I could decompress and then detract from my own story. What was happening to my own mind when the inner dance was about to erupt or even disrupt? To erupt is to break open, to break through, to break down. Um, I was thinking about it today so that I could come into a sharing. Okay, what was going on inside me when the inner dance was about to come? I was going through a lot of breakdown and breakthrough. I was reading these books and I was on this spiritual journey. I was in the US, in America. I was in, this is after 9/11 thing with the Mexican stranger and all these synchronicities, these amazing spiritual processes were happening. Went back to the Philippines. Um, I had to write it down. The causality of my inner dance was simple. It wasn't a workshop. You know, I didn't do yoga, I didn't do breath work, I didn't do meditation. There was some psychedelics somewhere there in the picture where my body began to move on its own. But even before that happened, before my body started to go into this spontaneous movement, what was causing it was a belief structure. Something was happening to my paradigm or my perception where I became aware that there was no separation between God and all beings. That God, the creative life force, which could be called the goddess, was not a separate entity from me and from all other beings. This is what was happening. That we are in a conversation with the universe, which is us. That was the cause. That was the prime cause. That was what I was seeing. That was what I was beginning to believe. That was the transition. That everything was one and nothing is separate, and that there was no separation. So when the body began to move, that was just a manifestation of that which was being looked at. That God, goddess, universe, and me and you, nothing was separate. So the inner dance was just an experience of that which is being known. So then there's this other reality that's coming. So I'd like to establish that as the cause. Some people would like to give it a name. Okay, it's Kundalini, it's Shakti, it's the Divine Mother. All of those are all well and good, but to go deeper within this thing that's not just an object or something nameable. Um, we are the thing that's called source, the origins, experience of the energy. And I want to bring up one particular experience um, that could hold a dialogue. So I'd like to hold a dialogue with you. I'd like to have a conversation with you, holding these questions that could evoke, could invoke certain realizations, more questions, certain insights. So I downloaded a video. I was driving home this afternoon, like getting a sense, okay, why don't I just go directly into the topic, which is like inner dance and the story, the story of all stories. What is it about the body? What is it about what's waking up in the body? What is it about your experience of the energy in the body that's speaking like all of these? Okay, let's bring that into conversation today on the last Zoom call of 2022. So I downloaded this one video which happened Ahilan decided to join me in Italy and Danya. So we were in a room, and this could maybe hold. Okay, what do you do, Pai? What do people see when like people move their bodies and twirl their fingers and seem to manipulate other people's energies in what's called like a session or a workshop or a transmission. I don't do that. I used to do that a little bit during demos because there's something about the conversation that happens when the room becomes one. But when I do that thing called a demo, I rarely actually like to touch people and twirl my fingers around. What I like to do, which we talked about yesterday, was I like to speak to the space. When I speak to the space, it's because I'm listening. So my main tool or technique is actually my sound. I like to use my voice in a way that my voice becomes like a sonar or a resonator, the way a dolphin or a whale would send out its sound, like a dolphin, a bat, a whale would send out clicking noises and then it would receive back images. When I send out my voice, I can actually hear the room. So it seems like I'm talking to the person who's in the middle of the room, but I'm actually feeling the whole room. So I downloaded this one video that recorded this one moment of us putting Ahilan in the middle of the room, and I feel that that could create the conversation between us all that invokes some of your own experiences. Like here's a demo where we don't use music. It's not about the music. It's about the connection, the layers of information that transcends what is beyond right here and right now. And hopefully that could help you understand how you yourself might channel the room or hold the space.
Raining there. So when it rains hard in Maya, there could be a
Yes,
lost connection.
hi, Ahlan speaking. Yes, Pi is reconnecting. One moment. Maybe so. Yeah, you could maybe. We try my. Yeah, hi everyone. So far is reconnecting to another network, and then we can continue. Yeah, we have a quite rainy day, so it's the whole day was raining, and in the afternoon we had a little bit of yeah, clear sky, but now again it is raining, and so I am also actually connecting in and out again. At the moment, it seems like my connection is stable and Pi is reconnecting.
Okay, I'm in. So I'm just gonna play the video. Sorry about that. It's, yeah, we lost our satellite internet a couple of weeks ago, so we're trying to regain it. Yeah, so I guess I spoke my gist. Let me do the screen share. I hope the sound is okay for this one. So just let's watch the video and let's ask questions on where are the movements coming from, what exactly is happening dimensionally, and then how might you yourself learn to channel the space through your own way. Our generation will experience wisdom not as a mentality. What our generation has to remember is the wisdom is embodied. How did you forget? The body is wise. So within this tradition, we never speak to your ego. We never speak to your mind. We speak to the non-linear, the non-verbal. We speak to the body. That's how we inquire.
My name is Noyang Tuan.
We're going back. We go back. Far back.
He's showing his old video. Oh, sorry.
The only way humans experience the outer coming from the inner is causation. Determinism, the oldest philosophical question is who, what created the thing? Reality, Earth, universe, tribe, the heavens, every iota of thought, concept comes from source. And so we go back to the source and we speak to something that doesn't exist back there. It's always still. You'd like to know. So, what to us, when we close our eyes in black, the spirit evolving, there is a structure. There's a system. So what if it was never just air? If mind isn't disembodied, this is the mind. This is the mind. Because never despair. The mind extends. How far can we see? How long? How old? What is your age? What is age?
Hi everyone. Yeah, for those who doesn't know me, I am Achillen. I was born in Sri Lanka, and when I came to KL to this session, where I met Pai and Italy again, I was actually before in Sri Lanka at my at the place where I was born. I was born at home, and this house still exists. And in this place, just before I came, I didn't actually I did a session for myself. I laid down to the space where I was actually where I came into this world from my mother through, and it was really interesting to coming back to this story again, to this experience, and then to see the video after long. It still feels like for me today, it was like my body started to move straight away. There was something moving, and actually I have to when I see this, then I have there's also this connection to my first inner dance, and my very first inner dance was probably a year before this recording, or a little bit more, and it was in Copenhagen, and I didn't know what inner dance is, and I just heard from some friends, oh, this is there's this inner dance happening, and you can go. And I was like, no, I don't want to go there. It's a dance thing. It's not. I want to do any workshops. They said something very interesting. It was like, you don't have to do anything. You have to just lay down. And I was fully into it. I said, okay, that sounds good. And I went there. And once the play pressed the music, my body was straight away moving very, very intensely. And I went through the whole 45, 60, 90 minutes. I don't know exactly how long it was. My body was actually going in waves of movement and extreme movements. And after this, actually, I went back to Germany. And that was the time when I actually also, I was quite successful in my job, and I decided to leave my job, and I left my job, and I was traveling, and I was I was kind of looking for something, and somehow inner dance came in my space. And at the same time, after this session, I went to Mexico, and in there, actually everything in my life broke down. The relationships I had and everything around me was breaking apart, and I saw there's something happening. But I was actually interested into the question of, well, what is this in a dance? What is it actually made of? And so I was searching the internet. I didn't find Pi at this time. I was searching the internet. I found some of those. Some of the people who were actually offering in a dance. But then I found Serena. And so 3 months later, in total, 4 months later, I left Mexico, traveled all the way to Copenhagen again to have a 10-day immersion. Where actually I went to with the question of actually, what is it? What is it made of? How is it actually structured, this inner dance? And so there were, we were 16, 17 people, and it was, we had a lot of lectures, and then we had sessions. And in this, we had a lot of theory. We had like all the playlisting and the circadian rhythm and all those theories we went through. And I had a glimpse of, for me at that point, what is it made of, and what was it? And so I went like to study all this. And it was also that moment when after this short 10 days, shortly after, Pai also came to Kopangan, and he did his very first talk after he was in silence for a year. And somehow on the way back from the island to the mainland, I met Pai again in the ferry, and we had a 1.5 hour talk. Actually, Pai showed me his iPad and everything, and I was actually fully into it. I didn't understood that much at that time what he was talking. It was really, I had this feeling of, okay, something inside me is actually getting it, understanding it. And when I went back home, I would sit in somewhere and I would just study all those things that was really interesting for me. And whatever it's come in my space every day, I would study. And suddenly people would come to me and actually ask what I'm doing. And then end of the day, we would end up in a living room and hold a session. And here I was wondering about actually, how is it actually happening? Is it me who is sitting there and people are coming to me, or is it people who are coming to me because they are driven by? Who is actually, or are we both of us, all of us in? So it went for a while that I was actually holding sessions just totally not planned. It was more like guided through. At this time, I was more thinking about, for me, it was an energy which was moving me. It was something inside me which was somehow guiding me throughout the day, what I do, what I am doing, and I would continue to study, and it felt like that everything, whatever it's happening, it's in a way coming together. And so what I understood, so at least I thought I understood, was my questions about like how is it structured, or how is it actually made of, and later on, I went very first time to Maya, and I came here, and that was the first time that I met Pai for a longer time, and then suddenly also there were so many people who were already doing inner dance for long term, and it was really a beautiful energy, and it was an open dialogue about everything in inner dance and all the theories. And this brought me up more and more to ask the question about actually, where is it coming from? Where is this origin of this inner dance? Because when I met Pai here, I realized something special that I remember also shared with him at that immersion, where that actually inner dance is something where there's no guru, there's no above you or some podest and telling you something. So this was something which allowed me to be there and ask this question about also, where is it actually coming from? And what is my inner dance? Where is my inner dance coming from? And what is moving actually my body? And it's and with this question, I went back to Sri Lanka before coming to KL. So and in this session in on my birthplace, I had this feeling of going back to a place where it was there was nothing and everything, and there was this womb space, and I could connect to many layers of my life in different dimensions, and this somehow also opened up something for me to actually look back into my childhood, because inner dance in many sessions also brought up some of those spiritual awarenesses I had in my childhood, which I couldn't remember before anymore. But in the inner dance session, they came back, and they allowed me to actually look back in the in my story, in my experience, that actually even before having my first session, I have experienced something which was moving me. And it was not only like movement in the hands. There was sometimes it's also some movements which are like, was like, yeah, I give you an example of when I was 2000, I think 2012, I suddenly decided to, I was eating meat and everything, and I suddenly decided to not eat for a long time, like for 4 or 5 days, and I was just drinking. And I didn't know why I have decided. I didn't, actually it was at that day where I have decided to do so. And then I started to, after 5 days, I started to do slowly eat raw food, and then slowly eat vegetables. And then I stopped I stopped eating meat. And I asked myself the question, what is it actually also moving this movement of not only in the way of body movement, but also in the way of your how you move in life. And this goes back, and all the way back when I look into my life, all those sessions, sometimes even dreams, are showing me a lot about my life situations, events, which kind of this movement, this energy, this something which is causing me, or me causing it, was present. And this is somehow my inner dance journey into actually to find out those questions, where it is actually coming from, where is the origin. And when we had a call yesterday, I was talking afterwards with Johanna about that. Actually, when we go into this womb space, then where we can experience where vibration actually becomes matter, is it that origin, or is it one of those many places? And is it actually where is it starts and where is it stops? And I am asking myself still these questions about where we where we come from, where is it coming from, where is my inner dance coming from. And I would like to open for sharings. If you have something to share about your experience of inner dance and your origin. And so please unmute and feel free to share. Thank you.
Hi, morning or afternoon. I just want to share that since we have started this, whatever it's called, intensive, I have had several dreams where Pi has appeared and they are super absurd. One was that he was teaching us in London about the spiritual London. And then he said that we should go into the river on a shower plate and navigate the river with a shower plate. And another was yesterday night, but I don't remember exactly. But it's the first time that I'm remembering dreams, and it's the first time that like spirituality, if I may call that, enters into the dreams. So yeah, something is opening up. I'm happy about that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm not sure how is my connection. Sometimes people are asking me if this is like shamanism, and is this like shamanic work? And I'm never sure what to say, if I should just say no, it's not. But then after like going deeper in this, because I'm in the inner dance journey for around 3 years now, I think. And I came across since like many modalities. Some are like, they feel like they're working in a similar kind of way, like people are touching, like the person who's facilitating is touching, and then it's causing person to either like fall onto the floor and like have this kind of like seizure like movements, or, and there are many names, many schools. So it started like the question I started to have, could this be this kind of like a Shaktipat energy that is coming from the Hindu tradition, or there are other descriptions in this, like more South American traditions, like the Carlos Castaneda, when he was describing this magical passes of people's bodies kind of becoming like in this vibration state, or yeah, like, would you call this shamanic? Like, I never know really what to say. Yeah, that's what's currently on my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. It's really interesting because this question is also one of the central questions I had for myself, because my great-grandfather was in a way a shaman in Sri Lanka on an island. And and it was not that much connected to the Hinduistic tradition, even though there is the north of Sri Lanka is Hinduistic, but the tradition itself is not connected to the Hinduistic. But of course, it has parts of it and properties. And so there was a break in the lineage because of something happening. And then when I was actually, even before meeting inner dance, when I went into some dimensionality while meeting some of those beings from this world in other worlds, and then I was asking, what is it? Is it coming from that lineage? Is it that? What is it happening? And then when I met inner dance, I could somehow also see some similarities, and so I had to look into this for myself. Is it that? And also in this journey of those questions, what is it actually made of? And I could, in a way, feel there is a difference for me, for myself personally, and I can here only speak from personal point of view, is that inner dance has given or allowing something which is beyond the tradition. It holds a tradition, but it's beyond the tradition. It is actually holding something which is inside me, which is actually older than that shamanic tradition, which we remember. And in some of those inner dance, I could feel this movement, this energy. And so my personal response to myself is, it's like it is actually holding it's like giving you actually something back that was before shamanic tradition, which is actually you can be part of the whole, and the whole can you. Yeah, this was my experience. Thank you.
Hi, Hiran. Hi, everyone. So I think for me, it was an interesting question to ask today because I've never ever thought of it. Like when I first came to Maya, my question was like, this used to happen when I was younger. Like I used to have what we call now epilepsy or whatever, or like that dream kind of state. And for me, like, I believe it was more about coming back to that state and understanding like that's the natural state of existence in general, you know, like I thought that this existed in me only. And then when I came to Maya and I understood more about inner dance, I believe what made it very magical for me is how to induce that by will. It's like not just being intuitive, it's like something that you can do or not by not doing anything and just lying down and surrendering, that can bring you back to that state where we already existed in when we were kind of kids. And I believe the question that I've been asking myself the past years, at least the past 2 years, had been more of like, when is inner dance not happening? Because for me, it's kind of a frequency or resonance of a state of being that I can now identify when it's not there. And then this is when I actually look into what's happening that brought me out of that state of balance, or that state of what we call homeostasis, or that state of being that feels more in resonance with everything else. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Oops. I wasn't supposed to talk yet, but I think I really love that, Noah. When is inner dance not happening? I super resonate with that one. And I would like to share my experience of also asking that question, where does this come from, or when is it, how does it feel when it's coming, when it's happening? And I notice myself when I am the one lying down. It's like in a psychedelic journey, when you know the medicine is coming, it's like, oh, it's coming, I could feel it. And I notice myself doing the same thing with the inner dance, like Is it arriving now? Is it arriving? And yes, it's happening because something is moving. But that question almost stopped when I started having that resonance with what Noah said, like, when is it not happening? And because it's always there, it is that which cannot be named and which cannot be timed or which cannot be only felt in the physical, in a sense of movement, but a sense of holding the thoughts and seeing the thoughts and feeling the thoughts. It is that energy that is beyond the bodily sensations, at least at some point, when when we become more and more familiar with it. We call it it. My first physical encounter of inner dance happened 2 years after I've come across it online. I would say 2015, but I started experiencing the energy when I've come across it on YouTube for some reason. I don't know how. And I was thinking about it just an hour ago. It's actually interesting because looking back at it, my life was actually was taking me to a different direction the moment I started I kind of like got obsessed with inner dance. It was calling me, the energy was calling me. And looking back at it now, I feel like it was already dancing in me without me really physically meeting it yet, or not really knowing it yet, through an experiential way. But it was in my field so strongly that I started leaving my job, making full-time art and stuff like that. So when I first experienced it, it was 2 times in a row, 2 days, 2 days in a row on a demo with Pi. And I was already working with shamanic voice before I got into inner dance. So I was familiar with the sensation of channeling sounds. But at the time, the first time I've experienced inner dance, it was deep, deep, deep from space of the earth I have not experienced yet. And I would, because we just had a birth an hour ago just beside my house. So I've just been making soup and stuff for the mom. And there is this certain sound that a mother makes when she gives birth. There is this, like the body doesn't even know where that comes from. And that was the sensation I was feeling the first time I've experienced inner dance. And I had no time to ask myself what is happening or where is this coming from. I just went there, or it just went to me, or with me, in me, through me. And it was that sort of energy that was always flowing through, at least in the first few years. Very, very intense, very loud, and very, very strong sensations. It is a very interesting question that we are holding today, because it's a question that I seem to have also stopped asking, because it feels like it's always there. And it's a matter of switching on the button and switching off when Pai was explaining yesterday the top down and the bottom up energy. When when we want to induce it in the space, wherein you say, okay, I'm going to hold space, or we're going to do an inner dance session, it feels almost like a light bulb on the ceiling, and it's always there. You know, it's always there. You know, it's connected to the electricity, all the circuits in the house, and you kind of like just switch the button on so that you see the light. And it feels kind of like that now when we hold an inner dance space. It's like just saying, okay, light on, and we're on, but it's always there. And that's how I would like to share what the inner dance energy is for me. Yeah, but when is it not happening? Good question. Thank you, Noha.
I super want to reflect and resonate with all of you. Like this questioning or like wondering things together, because it kind of sparks also to look at the the core, like what is it, why it is calling us, what do we feel when we are in that space and process that we call inner dance. So and then reflecting Joanna's wondering about, is it shamanistic, why so many different things that we encounter and other processes are very similar, or similar things happen then in inner dance process. My perception of it has kind of always, for me, been that it's, in my life, it's been the first kind of free space. So since the first session, how I kind of identified what was inner dance for me was that it was like really, really first time that no one told me what to do or who to be or what to experience. And because that freedom or allowance was there, I feel, where is it coming from, or kind of what's the origins? It's like, it's, then to Noha's question, that when it's not there, so somehow I feel it's always there. And this word, like remembrance, like it's a process of remembrance and trust. So it's more like, when do I allow myself to be in that connection of trust and remembering things that are kind of natural, or be connected to the source, or let things go through us. And then, because in this space or in the process of inner dance, I feel people are going through so many different types of being movement or stillness or dimensions, or kind of shamanistic, being connected to certain realms, or like so many different experiences that we can experience. So how could I ever box it in a one description? Like, so the only way I can look at it is kind of like an umbrella. Like, I like when we say that it's a study of consciousness, because then it holds a lot, and it holds a lot of opportunities to look at it from so many different sides, and it allows everyone to actually have their own experience, because it's not boxed into that it's this or that. I don't resonate with like a Kundalini word, because I never experienced in myself that it would be particular one energy or one type of movement or going to one direction. So all of that is too limiting for me to say that it's this type of energy or this type of process. So the only way I've been able to kind of resonate the space for myself, it's processing the word freedom, and what does it mean, and why, when I do feel that I'm connected to this very natural state, when I'm in that connection and trust and state, things allow, like I allow, or the space allows, or people around me, or kind of the whole field allows me to align pain processes very naturally, my thoughts very naturally, my body, the movements. And they can be very intense, but everything feels like it goes in waves, and then it kind of like balances and goes into a very natural state by time. So yeah, I see it as in a very, very wide umbrella of and then the actual process and space that I've been allowed with others and with myself when I've kind of lay down or stand up or sit or do whatever, but kind of being able to go into that trust and remembrance and surrender and observing place that I call inner dance for myself, and that kind of free space where I can be the observer and being like active and relaxed at the same time. So yeah, that's kind of my freedom process. So where is it coming from? I feel it's always there. It's been always there, but myself, I'm just not in the state or condition or in a situation in all the time or everyday life, or haven't been, that I would have allowed it to freely myself to be connected. So I, like when Flora was talking about giving birth and these or like sounds that are very like natural, and like what happens in the birth when the baby comes, for me that baby in that moment is pure inner dance in so many ways. And yeah, whole life cycle actually. So yeah, I love looking at these questions with all of you. Thank you.
Hi. Good morning or good night. Yeah, I felt that this question just also escalated a bunch of other questions. And they felt also very simple questions for me, but then I also didn't have any answers, like, where does it come from? And my second question was, does it actually have a starting point? Does it actually have a momentum, like, boom, now this is inner dance? Whatever happens from this point in light, we call inner dance right now. And I loved how Ahilan mentioned also his food journey a little bit, because I myself in the beginning, I went into the paradox or paradigm that, I need to eat only this and then inner dance will happen. But then within my explorations with food, I also realized it is actually not so dependable on what I eat or what I do, in a sense that my body still moves and I still see and have the same experiences, of course, within different containers, but the experience is still there. And considering all of this, and having been away from Brazil for like all of my inner dance journey, it was one of my wonderings. Is it gonna stop when I land there? What happens when I land there? Is my body like not gonna move anymore because I am not around people that are inner dancing people anymore? But it actually did not, and it actually continued. And some of the processes that I have been having here were actually very similar to the things that I was experiencing in Maya in the beginning of my inner dance process. So it does really bring me into the point. Maybe my fair question here is, when does it start? Like, can we actually say that this is something that starts and finishes? Which for me is interesting to look at that, because we are shifting our time sensorial perception. And coming with questions like this. It just helped me see where also we are at in the transition point from these different paradigms. I've had, I think it was one of my last processes in Spain, one Argentinian DJ guy was taking part in the process, and it was one of the journeys that I actually enjoyed the most, conducting the sounds. There was this one time that there were like so many sounds, so many layers, and I was playing some sort of sounds from a granja, like the farm, like chicken and cow and dog, and it was just like this thing. And then at the same time I was playing some psychedelic and tuki tuki poo 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 sound, so it felt like this raving farm kind of thing. And so this guy, in the end, he opened up his eyes, and he was just like, the first thing that he said was like, this is old, this is very old. And I was like, yes, this is very old. And we were kind of like having this conversation as to what these shamanic journeys are, or how are we redefining or building actually a bigger container to what these journeys are, understanding, of course, the roles of rituals in society and how they create structures, how they help us hold things. So I've been having also some conversations with a friend. He's a Gestalt therapist. And after a long talk of me just saying what was happening in the Philippines and what inner dance, or trying to define what inner dance is to a person who has never been in these spiritual circles, he told me that, yeah, this feels interesting. This is something that I would want to join, because it doesn't feel that I need to perform anything, or it doesn't feel that I am stepping into someone else's belief system, that I need to, believe in this or that, to do this, to be what, or to do, or to be what in an inner dance session. This was very beautiful for me to see and to acknowledge as well. And especially coming from where we are coming nowadays, with all of this, with all this openness that we're trying to create in the space, and seeing a lot in the spaces, as Italy was mentioning, like how this is a free space. And I've experienced in the beginning of processes, like telling people that they are free, how they feel. You can literally see in their bodies, like, I don't actually need to do anything. What is this? Like, I don't know what to do then. It's so tricky, and it's so beautiful, and it's so deep to see that we are trying, or not we, or something behind, or like here is trying to come up with this other container that is able to hold the infinite potential for diversity and everything. So I actually, and I was even asking myself, so if we also separate, also inner dance is what happens in the session, so is it what happens only in the session? Is there some sort of a ritual to an inner dance, or are we able to build a language that actually is transversing, is going farther than what this language is, to describe what this phenomena is, this particular thing is? So I went back into the word structure and redefining what it is also as well too, and all of those words. Maybe this is what I had to share now. Thank you everyone for this space.
Hi. I would like to share about my very interesting week. So last Tuesday and Wednesday, I just arrived in Bali, and then And at that point of time, I was still really processing like what really is inner dance and what really is like to facilitate inner dance. And I didn't quite understand. It's still kind of in my head, and I was asking literally a lot of questions, trying to grasp it. Um, um, and then I had a really interesting experience on last Thursday. I was like, oh, I'm going to miss the class with you guys, and I'm gonna have to watch the class on the video. Oh, I'm gonna miss it, and I'm like, okay, it's fine, you know. I was in a mushroom ceremony, and then at some point I was like doing like all over my body, and I was like, oh, part of my mind was like, oh, part of me, I don't know where, it's just like, oh, I'm inner dancing. Oh, I'm in the inner dance class. I'm in the class with them. Oh, I see Pi. Oh, this is my class. Oh, am I in the class? Am I with them on Zoom? Wait, do I have to watch the video? And then I'm hearing some whispers saying, no, you're in the class with them. You're with Pi. You don't have to watch the video. You're learning right now. I'm like, oh, so this is my inner dance class? Yeah. And like, so it's like, it was happening while I was not with you guys, as in another space, in another dimension. And then it was happening for me. And I'm like, fuck those questions that I asked eternally. I get it now. I finally get it. I got it. Like, there is seriously no structure. And all of a sudden, loads of synchronicity just keep on happening. And I'm like, this is inner dance. This is inner dance. This is inner dance. And I get it now. And then I'm like, yeah. And it was constantly happening. It was constantly happening. And I felt like I was just inner dancing throughout my entire trip. And I wasn't even like on the mat. I was like in aesthetic dance, and I was inner dancing when I was dancing. I just went into it. I was like, oh, I'm doing it again. And I wasn't even thinking. It just happens. And then more synchronicity just keep happening. I'm like, what the hell? And then now I'm starting to question all the belief systems, the lineages, the who made this stuff? Is it from the mind or from the spirit or from it, or what is that? And then I have been really strict with my Reiki practice, with my Reiki teachings, and now I'm questioning what I have been teaching. Because ever since I attended this training, I'm starting to see like mild shifts of how I practice Reiki. Instead of just putting my hands there, I'm like doing this. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, this feels wrong. And I'm just like, okay, don't move your hand. Just keep your hands there. That's not Reiki. Do Reiki. And then now I'm just like, in the last week, I'm like, boom, like, what the fuck? You know, like, okay, now like, if my hands wants to move, I move it. I'm not going to care anymore. So now I'm like, okay, my next Reiki workshop is happening. I'm going to do the next training. How am I going to teach it now? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to hack the system, and I'm just going to see what happens. Yeah, so this is my my journey with it. I don't know what to call it.
Hey everyone.
everyone. I resonate a lot with what you said, Fiona. Is it Fiona your name? Yeah, I think. As I like, I'm holding like yoga classes, and it's happening the same. It's exactly the same that is happening to me. I see my yoga stuff that I know, and then I practice, and I feel something else. Like, you know, I feel like another a path, like the inner dance energy coming and teaching me like something else, you know. Don't think too much with your linear brain, just go to the wild and go to the flow, you know, actually. And you were also saying, talking about freedom. I think this is it, you know, freedom of just be. Yeah, just be, and to have no validation, no explanation somehow. The energy for me, inner dance is the energy, the like it's immense, like it's too much. It's kind of too much. It's just there, and it's all at once, all the time, beyond time. Like I cannot explain. I just cannot explain. There's a lot of information. I had like I was saying that in the group, like a psychedelic trip, like last weekend. It was quite full on, and I just realized that it was just like psychedelics are like a good gate to open doors, but you close the door, then you don't understand anything. You know, maybe you understand, but it's too intense, and you're like, wow, what's there? You put your head like in the source, and you're like, yeah, it's full on, its movement. Yeah, the inner dance is movement, is spiral, fractal, like geometry, like deconstructing, and then building itself again and again and again. And then you look, you observe, and then you're like, okay. And it's infinite. So for me, just like got this insight that it has no end, no beginning. It's like, it's just be, it's just is. And our eyes, actually they're limited, they are limiting now, you know. It's like, if you close your eyes, you shut down this part of your brain, and then you start to see with your brain, you know. It's hard to describe it. I had like this real big insight that like the energy was showing through the psychedelic, that like the force, like really the creative force. And it's a never-ending story. It's infinite. And it has no reason to exist. It's just there, and that's it. And with inner dance, I understood also that about time. For us, like the human experience is like quite long. Maybe the average of living a good life maybe will be like 60 or 65 years old, but for the consciousness and for the energy, it's just like a blink, like it's just a glimpse. It's nothing. So it's I just realized also that inner dance is really like a technology, and it's like for the human experience, it's bringing us like a way of healing and it's an evolution also. I think it's an evolution, because I felt also like that we are the consciousness, we are the universe, and we are like just an evolution of it. And animals and nature and all that, or human construct and everything, it's just an evolution. But we can go into this system just to remember all of that we cannot see because of our eyes, you know. And I see we can go back to this finally with inner dance in a slow way, and in a really like you can like build your own foundations, like Reiki, and it's hacking your own system with your Reiki. It's doing the same with yoga, and everything in me, you know, it's like it's spreading all over, but it's really like organic. It's organic. It's like, sorry, I'm like full on. Still super full on, but I was like, oh, yeah, so many insights, so many downloads, so many things that I cannot even like talk about it, you know. But it just is, for me, it's just there. And the question is really interesting to ask, and yeah, I'm thinking a lot about that, but it just is. I think it's just there. It is like so mighty, so there. So if you close your eyes, you can maybe access to this. And yeah, in my inner dance journey also, I was like, a lot in the dark, in the void, like in the void, in the black hole. I thought with my limited thinking process, I thought it was like nothing more and everything, but I started to look at it like deeply, and then I saw all this sacred geometry in the inner dance process, and like really finite, like really tiny shapes, and then I realized that the darkness, the void, was holding everything, you know, every little shapes, you know, all the structures. Just I was too far to see, to look at that really. So I went into deep into it, and then I started to see things and to understand. So I'm just at the beginning. I think. Thank you.
Just comment firstly. I like what Karos shared, and thank you, Fiona, for sharing. It's amazing. From that, I just feel we just need somehow allowance to like, even like our questions and my questions too. Like, am I allowed? Do I know? Does this actually happen in me without, you know, that it starts to kind of come naturally, and the knowing and the remembrance. So when Kara said that it's like technology, then also word like intelligence, like there's actually like a natural intelligence, but how do we tap into it? And then like it starts to kind of, it feels like it starts to live its life with us, and then like opening into it, like in your Reiki, like, okay, actually I want to do this, and maybe that's actually the way you're supposed to do it, and not how some teacher taught us methodology or modality how to do things. So it feels like, where does it come from? Like, if there's this natural intelligence that it is in evolution with everything, like every single organism on this planet and this universe. So there's something, it's really mysterious, like where does it come from, and does it start from somewhere, and where does it go? Because it does feel that it has like a very kind of perfection in it, but then like slowly learning to listen and trust and be surrounded by that space which allows it actually to happen. That's like my word for freedom. But yeah, some kind of evolving intelligence in all of this. Okay.
Yeah, I want to share. I really enjoyed. Oh wait, I want to share something with you guys. There's this really big centipede, the biggest I've seen maybe in a while, right there. So okay. Oh, it fell down.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense. It's super big. I really loved everyone sharing. I want to acknowledge Fiona's. It just brought me back. It helped in center me into a place of like story and what is beyond story. For me, inner dance has always been a kind of intelligence. It knows what it's doing, and it's almost just using us rather than than we're using it. Um, so how I saw it like a long time ago, 16, almost 17 years ago, when it first opened up. There's so much happening in the Philippines, and then there was this woman who heard about it, saw it on a website somewhere, and then came to Manila to experience it. She was basically like a the CFO of one of the biggest IT companies in the world, and she lived in Singapore. And she said, "You need to bring it to Singapore, and then I need to bring it to Bali." And then I'm like, "Okay, like I'll go with you." So she bought me a plane ticket, and in the beginning, I was kind of holding sessions there. And at that time, I was really quite simple, so I wouldn't charge money for it. I wanted to give it away. But she said no one in Singapore would ever value something if you don't charge money for it. But in that time, like one guy came and he was the owner and editor of the some magazine, the Lighthouse something magazine, and he was the founder of Love and Light Festival, which was gonna apparently be the biggest spiritual festival in Singapore. So he went to one of the inner dance workshops, and there was really not so many people coming, but the experiences were quite deep. And he wrote to me afterwards and said, "This could do something to the people." So he invited me to come back, and I did. And that's when inner dance actually exploded, when it landed there. So how it came to me the last 16 or 17 years is this energy just kept traveling from Singapore, then to Malaysia, then to India, then to Taiwan, and then to places in China, and then to America, Australia, and then to Europe. It just kind of kept spreading in a way that there seemed to be something within the human body that recognized the energy. And as it kept spreading, the energy kept changing and changing and changing. Inner dance has always been low key, where we've never really worked with marketing. We don't do branding, we don't do advertising. We just allow the energy to kind of do its thing. So it's almost like it was studying something inside people's bodies. So reflecting upon all the themes, where I might contribute to this was when it first came to the Philippines, the first newspaper article to get written on the inner dance was in the Philippine Daily Inquirer. They presented the inner dance in almost the entire lifestyle section on one Sunday. And it was more of the title of the the article that spoke about the whole thing in general. And I think this answers a little bit of the query Joanna from London asks. Like, I don't want to go into it so much. This thing with shamanism and um, initiation or Shaktipat, but the title of the article was "Everyone Can Be a Healer," and that really simply defined what the inner dance is and what it could be. Because way back in 2018, you would enter a room and there was no distinction between the one who was healing and the one who was being healed. Literally, and anyone could stand up and touch someone's body, and then there was be an activation. There was no guru or teacher or healer. Everyone was just not even a healer. Everyone was like a healing, like in a way. So listening to Gra, listening to Fiona, listening to Ahilan. When I went in a long retreat in 2017, I printed these two articles that I was reading so much. One was entitled "The Death of the Author," and the other was "What is an Author?" And they were both coming out of critical theory. One was authored by Michel Foucault, and the other was authored by Roland Barthes. And what these articles are asking isn't so much just who is authoring the work, and the one who really writes the book is the one who writes the story, which could be the history itself, which is what happened in colonization. So a lot of these essays were coming out through postmodernism, critical theory. I think the whole point of these articles isn't so much about the author, but authorship. and something within the author is actually the word authority. The one who gets to write the story is the one who holds the most power. So I think the whole point in these movements that we're starting to come about, that we're questioning who holds the most power, the one who sends or transmits the energy, and then the others who are less worthy, the one who has the less power is the one who receives it. There's something about going back to to these origins of inner dance. Everyone is a healer. Everyone has something to offer. Everyone has something to give. I feel that inner dance a long time ago in its first incarnations was designed somehow on the death of authorship and the death of authority. Because I'm still receiving it now, these emails and these questions like who started this? Like who authored this? How was inner dance created? I resonate it with it only up to a certain point because I do see that this energy actually comes alive when we realize that there's an equilibrium starting to come through in the world. There's this sense of equality where there is no one author. There is really just a co-authorship happening. So I think spiritual modalities really need to sit down or slow down, really take a break and really listen deep as to where did this all begin? Where did this all start? When did the inner dance actually start? And I think when I reflect on that question, the real question is when did it stop? You know, how did we stop the real inner dance? And then why is it restarting again now that we're accessing like an empowerment of the many that is not going to allow any single power holder to state that I am the one who came up with this. I'm the owner of this. I'm the one who takes the lead. I'm the most powerful. Come to me. And so coming to Europe the last months, a lot of the conversations we were holding is how can we free this up now that it seems to be going into a recolonization effort. This movement of trying to own an energy, trying to name, brand, trademark an energy. And it's not really just one person. It seems to be a tendency in the human to try to go for some kind of power structure, understanding that this energy seems to be disempowering so that equal empowerment could come about. There has to be a new mediumship or a new languaging that allows everyone to have access to the pen that writes on the pages of energy. That's the notebook of the world, and that doesn't really exist yet. So if something's gonna do it, something needs to be equal enough, generous enough, free enough, that allows us to be given freely, down to the people who hold the least power, who hold the least access to resources. Because I really do believe that this project of enlightenment and awakening really won't stop unless everyone has access to the same thing. This isn't easy to see when you're jaded and you're living in a place in the world that has more access than the places in the world that has less access. I mean, this is really one of the big questions. So to make this pragmatic, to make this practical, to make it real, I think we won't actually feel sated, and we won't feel okay when we simply look around and see the imbalance out there, that something is not equal, something is not in a shared space. So I'm really enjoying this talk. One of the reasons why I actually did invite Ahilan to be the one to open this is he's German, and yet he's born in Sri Lanka. which is one of the most disempowered states like in the world, and watching his experience, his inner dance experience of going into shame, humility, whilst holding the Germanness within him that's also responsible for in anthropology, the German space is also not just a shame culture, but like a blame, like guilt culture. There's something in between shame and guilt, blame and shame, taking responsibility as opposed to or complementary to projecting, meaning like this is not mine, this is not my fault, this is your fault, this is all yours. I'm not going to take ownership over this. I think authorship has been going on for a long time. Like they who hold the marketing power, the power to arrange the terminology so that they're holding the story, they're holding the more access and this and that. I think there's an inversion in the power structuralism in the world that inner dance actually holds, that could be key. It could be key. So there are so many questions actually, like what truly is true wealth? What is authentic power? What does it mean to really find one's own voice that is never just going to be a personal one? So hearing these stories, listening to these sharings, what we hear are people in spontaneity, in mystery, in exactly this, the unexpected moment, actually finding like access to wisdom precisely when um, they break the construct that is based on competition, based on upmanship, based on I feel we're in a crux point. We're at a time of a critical moment when you yourself are being asked, are you yourself um, capable? Are you powerful? Do you have capacity? Can you, you know? So when I speak about these stories of, let's say, Singapore, Malaysia, these places in Asia, South Asia, East Asia, there's something about the collective consciousness is finding its own identity. The collective consciousness is not identity. It's like like the tribe, you know, like it's the space itself, and not just the singular person within the space is finding its own voice. And so um I think there's a trick here when you look at media, when you look at modernity, when you look at um individuation, identity. There's something about the earth learning to speak mysteriously through people's experiences and minds and bodies that um, it is tentatively, tendentiously trying to feel like, is it okay to speak? Is it okay to hold this sensitivity that sometimes feels pain because it's not always feeling like like centered, not always feeling like this is a world where I belong. um there's like a feedback loop here where the moment you feel it's okay, like okay, hold it, it's time. At the same time you can feel possibly the ego, which has been disempowered to trying to take power, trying to claim its own space, yet to try to bring the planet with you, the collective consciousness with you, means quite a lot. It means really taking a lot of responsibility for all of it, for everything that's ever been. Um, so I feel in 2022 leading into 2023, what's happening now is there's so many insights harvested through tens of thousands, maybe even more journeys that have happened within what had started like a while ago, that's integrating. And we're being asked really important questions right now at a critical time when we sort of need to make intuitive decisions about who have we been, who are we now, and who are we becoming as a global like force. Um, so I think something still is in authorship. There is something authoritative that is not us. There's something that takes the lead. And how I've always pictured it is the way the ego works is we want to be in the driver's seat. We want to drive the car. And when we try to drive the car, we always bump into things. We're clumsy. We're not always navigating well. And then we get tired, we get exhausted, and we take the back seat. And then the universe, God, goddess takes over the wheel. And she or he and it, whatever kind of drives the car. And there's divine synchronicity there, and we get excited. Okay, I want to take control again, so we try to get in the driver's seat, and when we bump into things, we get clumsy again, and then when we give up. So I think the trick now is, how do you stay in the driver's seat and yet in the back seat where something is in control, and the more you let go of control, there's absolute control. It's just not you per se like holding control. There's something transcendent inside all of us. So I think what we're needing to do is to borrow the wisdom of not just dozens, but hundreds, like centuries or millennia, like thousands of years of aging. We need to grow up really fast, organically, but really fast, so that we can become the wisdom of the age that's able to navigate a really complex ecosystem that's needing intuition a lot more than ever. And inner dance will give a the key to inner dance is it allows you to find order in the chaos. And a lot of people have grown up with this intuition that the more you mess things up, the more you actually see the patterns. And the more you try to control things and put things into order, the more you try to author the story, the more you actually lose the the ability to recognize the bigger order that's hiding in the chaos. So it takes a lot of trust to, in fact, allow yourself to just trust everything, that everything is in teamwork, even the ones who seem to go against you are actually working with you. So now is the time to give this away, which means that now is the time for you to receive this. How would you do that? You know, how would you make this yours? So listening to people today, hearing from inner dance in England, in Egypt, Costa Rica, in Dubai, in Brazil, in Sri Lanka, Germany, in Finland. You were born where you were meant to be, then you traveled where you're meant to be now. But all of these things matter. You somehow are a planet that chose to be born in the space that you hold, and everything that you bring with you lives in time, not in space. So as you experience the inner dance of transcending the limitations that tether or bind you, there's an inner dance that doesn't look like an inner dance. It's almost like an outer stillness where you need to go back to earth now. For those who have gone really deep, don't try to recreate constantly where you've been. Learning how to ground a lot of these in real time, in a day-to-day basis, where the PhD level of learning is really, how do I bring this to my mom, my dad? How do I bring this to work, my boss, my coworkers? my son, my daughter, my brother, my sister, my neighbor, my worst enemy. How do I now apply and integrate all of this in a way that makes it not just fantastic, which is fantasy, but real? How do you ground this and make it real? I think that is maybe a next question that comes up within this conversational space. I'm saying all this because I actually enjoy and thrilled. I'm ecstatic to listen to all of you because so much of what you're speaking holds the story of the energy that's traversing itself through space and time mysteriously. And what I trust is your trust. I trust that you've been trusting it all the way through, that no matter how dark and low it gets, you're still kind of in equilibrium. Something is sustaining you now that's not coming from a reactive space. Something is kind of solidifying. So yeah, keep going. So yeah, I just wanted to celebrate and say thank you for everyone who shared. I want to keep the conversation alive. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Pai. Hi, everyone. Thank you. I would love to speak. I haven't shared for quite some time. And yeah, I entered when Ahilan was just finishing. So I also heard the other ones share. And it sort of made me go through, of course, like it's been a year that I know inner dance, or maybe a bit over a year. And what came to me now after hearing Pai and also hearing the question, when is inner dance happening? It sort of really is the two things. When is inner dance happening? And also this thing of like not needing to constantly recreate what you've already been through. And I heard from some sharings, I can't remember who, that they describe that they go through this super explosive experiences in the beginning, and then it sort of starts to settle and it becomes you more. And I think I can reflect that on that in my process now. This has been the sort of the most significant thing for me is to trust that inner dance, like I had come to the point I knew I feel it's always there, it's always happening, especially when I went so deep into my auditory sensory. Like every sound was starting to become inner dance playlist. And that was one phase. I just almost perceived the whole day as a playlist, and I could sort of go into the process with everything. And I thought, yeah, go into the process. Okay, I think it's always there. And I really like this thing with a light bulb. I think Flor was sharing with the light bulb that it really is always there. And sometimes you can decide to switch it on or connect with it. Conducting inner dance for myself and for others is still so young, I feel. And I feel I have so much to learn. And I think like my process after a year is that I need to really, or like I feel that I can trust that I can let go of what I've gone through. Just like I had to go through that letting go of myself and the belief systems I had for myself and for my life. And that was sort of a really deep and dark place in my process that I had a really difficult time with letting go of these parts of myself, because I thought that I felt so scared because I didn't know what would be left of me. And then I understood that it's really this, that this has given me the ultimate freedom in a way, but helps me also to take responsibility. And I think, like, I started with having inner dance sessions in this year, and I haven't held a huge amount of sessions. And I'm so, like, I'm really seeing still how this works through me. And I think a part of me wanted this to come through very noticeable for everyone, so they would have the in a way, that very noticeable experience of the energy. But what I've always seen in the sessions I hold is that it's much more deep sessions where people come out with very interesting deep sharings, and there's not so much so letting go of my desires, but at the same time observing and being curious about it. And I'm just I think I just wanted to share. I didn't really prepare, but I really wanted to share something in this call, and it's been amazing to listen to what is this for you. So looking forward to hear more. Thank you.
I'll go. Sorry, I'm being on and off in the call because it's early on my side of the world and I'm still sleepy. For me, it was a little different. Inner dance has meant more of an identity process. For me, it started with the medicines, with alternative medicines, that I went through the whole process of moving my hands and thinking that I needed to do things to move energy. And then eventually I ended up moving energy just with my mind and my thoughts. But then I went through the process of thinking, why is it that I have to consume something, or smoke something to access intuition, or to access what I felt it should be natural, right? Like what I felt it should be something that's already there. So I started praying and I started asking, I guess, the universe for an answer for that. And then Inner Dance showed up in the form of another brand. In the very first session that I had, it was like almost like a Bufo experience. My hands swelled up. I had all sorts of images, visions, all sorts of things. And that's how I became obsessed, ended up in Europe, and, ended up in one of the trainings and all the other things. The reason why I felt I needed to share that is kind of like the relationship of inner dance and identity. And I'm extremely grateful for showing me that I was able to do, I'm able to do the things that I'm doing without a medicine. And even though I know that medicines are deeply transformative, and I'm always going to be extremely grateful to them, I'm equally as grateful to having ownership, like to having like self-sufficiency in a way. And when it comes to sharing this with other people, I'm thinking a lot on like, okay, how can that sufficiently, that's not a word, you know what I mean? Like being like autonomous, be shared with other people, because what's happening a lot in the world is how we're putting the trust, which is kind of like what happened with me with the medicines, that I put all the trust that I had in myself outside of myself. Instead of seeing them as a tool, I saw them as like, okay, I have to trust this to be me. And I see how we do that with government, with communities, with almost everything that we interact with, how we put the trust of ourselves outside of ourselves. And that's just a thought of like, how can it be done differently more than anything? Yeah, that was it. That's for me. Thank you.
I can hop off after Mariela. For me, I feel like I've seen life through the perspective of birth for the last 2 years, because I've been experiencing so many births in my life in these last 2 years, that like inner dance became that. As soon as I started deepening into the process, I like started seeing the similarities of how one is birthing itself every time that you're going into that process. And in that deepening, like curiosity and like deconstruction of dogma started to happen in the process. And the questioning of like these deeper questions that I've always like asked myself, like, where are we going, who we are as a species, like what are we doing here? And like in that I realized that we might never had the answer, and that's the mystery. Like for me, that became the mystery, and inner dance became this process of digesting emotional experiences as a human being without having to give them a connotation, without having to be something else, and without having to change it. And how do I allow myself to sit with whatever is alive within my body for a moment in time so I can digest it? And at the end, I can start deconstructing social structures that have been in place to create a society. And how can I, with like a child mind curiosity, start to question my part in those structures, and how am I as an individual I'm taking place into those structures in humanity? And if like something, if there's something that I can do as a human to shift the movement of where like society is going just by looking at it. And like these deeper questions started to evolve during this process. And like I've realized that like part of this energy is accessing the mystery, and like it's relinquishing like all of these structures that we have. Like somebody mentioned Reiki, and we mentioned yoga in the conversation, and like I feel like this all of these structures have been set up for the human mind and the awareness to have an answer to why we're here and where are we going and how we can get enlightened. And like this has been something that I have fallen in love with, this dance, that we might never have the answer, and that's okay. And like living in the mystery, it's also okay. And allowing ourselves to be in curiosity and self-discovery constantly, it's okay and it's allowed. And giving ourselves that permission to be in that creative intelligence, and recognizing ourselves as earth consciousness, and the awakening of that consciousness, looking at itself through each other, looking at itself through nature. Like that has been like the most exciting and enticing discovery that I have found in the last couple of months. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be part of this call. What I want to share is about my own process with inner dance. I discovered it like more than 5 years ago while I was traveling, and I was already kind of deconstructing my life, and in between, I think I tried to settle again and try to build things again. And last year when I joined the intensive and I went into inner dance even more deeply, I realized, okay, I have to go in another round of deconstruction, and I felt really like I felt really lost because I thought, okay, I thought I deconstructed already, and what is still there to be deconstructed again and again, and when can we be settled, or where can it stop? And while I was listening to you this afternoon, I felt, well, maybe I was putting other words on what I was doing, but I was still looking for, as Pai said, being in control and build something that is comforting me and helping me feel, okay, you're settled now, things are doing good. And the more I go into the process, the more I feel, okay, things does not have to be good or to happen quietly, or well, there's nothing to achieve, or no success, or no realization to give me the impression that okay, I'm going in the right direction. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say, because I feel with inner dance I'm connecting to a deeper part of myself that is showing me a way, and while following the way I feel, where is it going? I have no reason to believe it's a good way, or it's a way. Well, so, and even if I've been through really hard moments recently, I feel, okay, there's no other way. So I wanted to thank the whole community and the process, because it's deconstructing everything, but at the same time it's saving my life. Or it's connecting me to true life. So that's pretty much it for today. I wish you a nice winter solstice, like the coming back of the light here in the northern part, and well, shifting period anyway for everyone. Have a good last part of the year, and see you next year. Bye bye.
So,
Hey everyone. Hi. Ilan, is it okay if I say something?
for sure, please.
Didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to share something that happened yesterday that I found funny and interesting. I was doing a solstice meditation with a different group that was guided, and we connected with intergalactic beings. And it was a really interesting meditation. It was guided, but I felt like the intergalactic beings were just doing whatever they wanted. They were definitely not following what like our leader was saying, or teacher, which I thought was really interesting. And my body started moving and doing positions like similar to inner dance. And I remember thinking like, oh, like, what is this? Like, is inner dance like intergalactic energy. And because the earth is emitting so much energy back to like the universe and during the solstice. And so they told, and I don't know if this is true or not, because I don't really practice like communicating my channel. I don't know if it's that open or clean or pure, but they were like, yeah, it is. I mean, it's for sure part of it. And I was like, so what is the music for? Because I remember asking this question a long time ago. I was like, do we really need music? Because there was no music in this meditation. And they told me it's for us. We like it. And I was like, oh, that's funny. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's true or not, but I just found it so fascinating. I feel like, I think I've heard a couple people say, since I started practicing like a different version of inner dance, like my body moves in these positions or twitches, or it just moves, right? In all these different type of modalities or meditations. And it hadn't before I went to this class. So I find that also interesting. Like, why was I not doing it before? Maybe I wasn't noticing. Maybe I wasn't aware of it. It was definitely not as obvious, like physically. Maybe I didn't want it to move, because I do remember when I found CAP, actually, it was a CAP teacher that reached out to me. I wasn't really consciously looking for it. And her picture looked really intense. Like, she had this mudra, and I was like, I don't know what this is. And then I saw the videos. I was like, I definitely don't know about this. But I gave it a shot, and I was a little scared. But when I was in class, like, and I internally started moving, like, I wasn't scared. Which I also found interesting, how it went from, I don't know if I want to do this, to here I am and I love this. It was like a completely different feeling. And now my body, and then I didn't actually physically move for, I don't know, about a year. And I talked to one of my friends, and he's like, I think you should give permission to yourself to move. And I did. And then I started moving. So I think the energy does find us and is using us in a way, but I also think our soul is seeking it. And that's how it like dances, right? Like, it turns into like, it extends its arm, and like, we either extend ours or don't. And when we do, that's when the dance happens, and it's like magic. So anyway, that's just what I wanted to share.
Actually, it's super interesting to hear through all of you and all the experience, and also about the origin of it, or where is it coming from, where is the source, and what is the source, and when did it start. And as also Gra mentioned before, like, there was this time before Einstein when we thought that time and space is causing us, it's beyond our influence of human, where time was in a way causing the universe. When after Einstein actually it changed, and because of his findings. And I want to share about actually the cause of seeing, like when I asked Pai at the beginning about when I wanted to understand how inner dance is structured, also how is actually playlist structured, why is the rhythm of the day actually in the playlist, the answer I would would be, yeah, actually the playlist was there, and then the rhythm was actually found within, even without actually putting it in with knowledge or with wanting to do it. So it's somehow there is something which is even speaking by itself. And then so the question about I want to share with, maybe let me share. No, there's like when we asked when we asked the question about actually what is the source, it's easily also comes to this answer of source agency, which means an agent. It's actually we are in this big space in between. We want to have an agent, we want to trust someone else, someone outside. At the same time, we want to take responsibility. We want to have control, but we somehow also like want to take responsibility. What is, and we can see in many of those things like yoga or Reiki. There was one person in Western Germany in immersion. She was doing sound healing, and actually after the inner dance immersion, whenever she was holding space, there were at least one or two person would also move. Not only that her hand was moving, also some of the people who were laying down would also move. I found it very interesting. How does it open one, or maybe not even open? How does it actually come in this space? And where this, while in we can see Reiki, yoga, or the other modalities as an agent, but at the same time, we could also see something like Reiki, yoga, but as well as psychedelic journeys, as already described before, as a inner dance. Actually, there is something happening. This feels like inner dance, and you don't need to use it that word, but it can be something what is related to identity, ID. There's something about intelligence in this ID, which is actually always speaking without being an agent, which is actually giving you responsibility and control at the same time, while it is actually having a greater control while you are holding the responsibility. What if you get both of it at the same time? And it's outside in and inside out. And it feels so beautiful to hear all of you sharing the inner dance journey, and also finding inner dance in many of those experiences and journeys you have. What is inner dance in life? How do we day to day, night to day, day to night, we have inner dance? How does your inner dance looks in the day, in the night, when you are not laying down, when you are not listening to a playlist? What is it? What is actually moving you? And when does it stop? And does it stop? And does it ever stop? Yeah. And it's been a beautiful journey, a beautiful talk to have with you all. I would open for one or two more sharing if somebody is want to share. Otherwise, we can close. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahilan. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like in the past week, how I see inner dance now is completely changed. At first, I see it as a practice, as like a session that I need to go into. But now it's like it's not a practice. It's not a session. It's an experience that just happens, and it's like, to me, it's 200% trust in your body, in your breath, in your movements, in your consciousness. It's just everything. And yeah, it's everything put together. So yeah, and I get it now that why there is no structure to it, because it's everything. If it's everything, there cannot be any structure to it, and it has to flow. And I get it now why everyone can do it differently. If it's a session, they can throw in anything at any point of time. If it's okay, now I feel like my body says I should stop the music and play the gong. And if suddenly my body says stop the gong and just go silence, and it's everything. There's no rules, there is no right, no wrong. It's just perfect. Yeah. So gave me like now a deep trust. I wouldn't say it's like confidence even. It's just like I know it's going to be perfect. For a session that I'm planning to do, I really don't know how it's going to turn out, and I'm just like, it's going to be perfect. Whatever happens in the space, I don't know what will happen. Like, I just have a vague idea of what I want to do, and I'm just gonna let it speak through me, and let the cosmos hold space for me, for everyone, and we'll see what happens. And I'm going to just expand and grow from there without structure, which is exciting because I always, not always, but I would say like I already have a structure of how I normally do things, and I flow within the structure. But now it's like I start with nothing, and I'm just going to see how it goes. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Tommy?
Yeah.
Tommy?
Yes, please. Now we can hear you. Okay, is there someone else want to share something before we close? Okay, thank you everyone for joining this call. For the wait, Lily, if you like. It's Lily, you want to share? I saw you just coming back.
No, I'm just waiting.
Yeah.
Closing wave.
Perfect. Yeah. So this is our last call for 2022. So have a beautiful holidays if you celebrate, and maybe you can open up your mics and camera to wish all the Merry Christmas and have a happy landing into the new year 2023, and see you on the other side of the time circle. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Happy New
Merry
Year,
Christmas.
bye.
Merry
Christmas.
Happy New Year also.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Loving love.
Bye.